All right. Hello, 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 everybody. Man, it's been a minute, hasn't it? It's been a minute since we've done a live stream here at the Gridiron Expert. And, man, we're so glad to be back, right? So I hope you guys are having a great Thursday. As a good friend of mine once said, it's the weekend eve, right? Day before the weekend really gets going. And, man, what a wild last month or so it's been for college football. Of course, we've had content here on the channel, right? We've had bowl predictions. We're doing NFL predictions now. We've had recap videos. We put a lot of content out. It's been a while since we've done a live stream, and we thought, why not come back today, of all days, to do a season recap? You know, instead of putting out a long video, why not do one giant recap on a live stream, so we can talk to you guys through the chat. We can talk to you guys over the phone, which reminds me I should probably plug this phone in to make sure it's charged and ready to go for y'all's calls, which we will open up the phone lines here shortly. And just kind of recap what's been a phenomenal college football season. And we'll jump into that in a second. But again, guys, I want to welcome you all back to the Gridiron Expert. We want to apologize for the lack of live streams lately. We had a lot going on in the regular season, and then had a lot kind of picking up with work and family life and things like that that prevented us from doing them as regularly as we wanted to do. I have a feeling personally that it's going to start changing very soon. And so while we might not have as many live streams over the course of the off season, we will have quite a bit. We will have quite a bit once the regular season starts up again, and we'll still sprinkle in quite a few through the off season because we want to keep you guys in the loop. We have a lot of content planned over these next few months, really until about the end of June, which of course, end of June means it's prediction season, which means we're already prepping for the 2023 season. And the 2023 season started as soon as Georgia, well, really as soon as Georgia took a 24-7 lead, that's when the season started because TCU was never coming back from that. So, we have a lot to talk about with our, with what we're going to do here at the channel. There's a lot to talk about regarding the season as a whole. We're looking forward to talking with you guys for about the next who knows how long, honestly. Just kind of depends on how the course of the live stream goes. How many viewers we're getting, what the engagement's like. That's how we're going to wing it. We're really glad you guys are here, and we want to thank you all for your support over the course of this season. So I want to give a shout out to Scotty B, the Baylor King. Good to see you. Robert, congratulations. Congratulations. I love the hashtags. Go Dogs, hashtag back-to-back, go for 3 in 23. I like it. I like it a lot. And it's looking very possible because I think I didn't have it on there. I'll add that later. Georgia's schedule, very, very favorable in 2023. We'll talk more on that later. But Robert, good to see you. Hunter5657, nice to see you as well. Big time Clemson man. Love having you on here, Hunter. Mike Myrick, good to see you. Go Noles, baby. Congrats on the huge, huge, huge bowl win over Oklahoma. One of the best bowl games of the entire postseason. And man, it was awesome. It was a thriller. I was pulling for you guys. Happy to see you guys get the win in the future. Looking really bright. I'm sure you've seen it, Mike. Not that means much, but ESPN and their way too early top 25 has Florida State as like the number 4 team in the country or something. So expectations are high again in Tallahassee, and rightfully so. So, Mike, we appreciate you and all your support, my man. Righteous Pimp. What's going on, man? Good to see you. Go Irish. Doggy, good to see you. Happy to have you here, man. Thank you again for all your support. And everybody else that is either watching now or watching later, we want to thank you for your support on the channel. Thank you for being here. All right. So a couple things to get into before we open up the phone lines, which we will, of course, do. But let's take a look at it. Let's recap this season, right? Ask yourself this question, and maybe address it in the chat or when you call us. When you entered the season, what were your expectations? Not necessarily for your teams, not for Notre Dame or for Baylor or for Clemson or for Florida State. What were your expectations heading into this season? Preseason top 25 poll comes out, you see it, and you go, okay, who's ranked too high, who's ranked too low, let's go. Who's my playoff, right? Are we thinking Alabama gets revenge over Georgia? Do we think that Georgia repeats? Does Ohio State get in there? Does Michigan go back? I mean, there's a lot of questions swirling on the national stage about what this season would bring, right? And, every year that we've been doing this on the channel, it's like, wow, this has been such a great season. The next year, this season topped the last. This season, and every single year, it feels like the college football season just gets crazier and crazier and crazier, and that's probably going to be the case going forward, especially as we near the era of expansion for the college football playoff as we near the era of conference realignment. 2023 is going to bring a lot of new members to the Big 12. Shortly after that, Oklahoma and Texas will move on to the SEC. We know the Big 10 is going to be adding people. The world is changing, guys, for college football, for better or for worse, depending on how you want to view it, and it's going to create a lot of chaos. But here's an interesting stat. 15 teams in the preseason top 25 did not finish ranked in the final AP poll. 15 teams. 60%. 60% of the preseason poll did not finish in the top 25. Those teams were BYU, Houston, Cincinnati, Wake Forest, Ole Miss, Kentucky, Arkansas, Wisconsin, Miami, Michigan State, NC State, Oklahoma State, Baylor, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M. All those teams we just listed, not a single one of them finished the season ranked. The last three I mentioned, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, and Baylor, those were top 10 teams. Those three teams were in the top 10, and they all finished with losing records. 5 of them total. Those 3 plus Miami and Michigan State finished with losing records. So let that be something of a reassurance to you, right? Like when the preseason poll comes out in August, as you watch our channel and other channels and ESPN or whatever, and they put out their early top 25 polls and everything, just know they mean nothing. Just know they don't mean anything. Because your team could easily be outside the top 25 and have a remarkable season. Just ask TCU, Tennessee, Penn State, Washington, and Tulane. Those 5 teams I just mentioned all started the year unranked and finished as top 10 teams. TCU, the national runner-up. Tennessee probably should have been in the playoff had Hendon Hooker not gotten hurt. Penn State won the Rose Bowl a year after having a disappointing 7-win season. They go on to win the Rose Bowl. Washington, first year under Kalen DeBoer, wins the Alamo Bowl over Texas, finishes 8th in the country. And then Tulane, out of nowhere, horrible 2021 season, bounces back, goes to the Cotton Bowl, wins an insane Cotton Bowl over USC, finishes the season at number 9 in the country. So 5 teams, guys, started the year unranked, but yet finished in the top 10. 15 teams started the year in the top 25 and finished unranked. It's a wild season, guys. It's a carousel. Teams beat up on each other. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen. It's the beauty of college football. That's why we love this game. You look at the conference championships, guys. You know, that's one of those things where every team is fighting for a bowl berth, for a championship berth, things like that. And there really weren't too many big surprises, right? I mean, you look at the Power 5 championship games. Georgia beat LSU. LSU, though, getting there in year 1 under Brian Kelly. That was an interesting storyline. Could he even win in Baton Rouge? He did okay at Notre Dame, did pretty solid there, but was he going to be able to win the SEC? He did. He not only took down Alabama, but got LSU to the SEC championship game, ultimately won 10 games in his first year with the Tigers. Pretty dang impressive. Michigan beat Purdue. Purdue won the Big Ten West. Many people didn't think they'd be able to pull it off when they lost their season opener to Penn State, but Wisconsin didn't live up to expectations. Nebraska didn't live up to expectations. Iowa didn't live up to expectations. Illinois was there, and then Illinois crashed down the stretch. Purdue still managed to win it. Got killed by Michigan, though, then lost to LSU. Clemson beat North Carolina. What a bounce back year for the Tar Heels. What a bounce back year for Clemson. Didn't make the playoffs, but still won the ACC after missing out last year. Utah took down USC. Utah was able to beat USC, win their second straight Pac-12 championship, but still did not make the college football playoff. So back-to-back Pac-12 titles for Utah, no playoff appearances, and back-to-back Rose Bowl losses, which I'm still convinced that Utah probably would have won or would have been really, really close to beating Penn State had Cam Rising never gotten hurt. But he's coming back. So that keeps Utah in the mix for a Pac-12 title next year. And the Pac-12 guy is going to have maybe the best, out of all the conferences, the best quarterback depth out of all the Power 5 conferences over in the Pac-12. A lot of talented quarterbacks in the Pac-12 next year. And we'll be talking about that a lot for the offseason. And then the Big 12. That was probably the most surprising conference, guys. You know, you had your reigning champions in Baylor, finished with a losing record. Was not what we thought they'd be. Oklahoma, first year under Brent Venables, had a losing season for like the first time since 1998. Texas did not win the Big 12 or even make the championship. Improvement under Steve Sarkisian. They got to a bowl game, finished right in the top 25 by season's end, but not good enough by Texas standards. It was Kansas State over TCU. And we said back in the preseason, go look at it. Go look at our preseason videos. We said Kansas State is the biggest sleeper in the Big 12 this season. Kansas State is the biggest sleeper in the Big 12. We said, I don't know if they're going to win the Big 12 championship, but if you're looking for a dark horse, they're it. And that's exactly what the Wildcats did. They ended up winning the Big 12 over TCU, went to the Sugar Bowl, got annihilated by Alabama, but still, what a year, 10-win season for Chris Klieman, taking down TCU, who was the national runner-up, a team that was projected to finish 7th in their conference, went to the college football playoff, and finished number 2 in the country. It's the beauty of college football, guys. It's absolutely the beauty of football. Pretty unreal stuff. It really is. What was your favorite week? And we're going to get to your questions and comments, don't worry. What was your favorite game? What was your favorite week? For me, go all the way back to week 2. I loved week 2 of the college football season because of what happened in the Sun Belt, right? Week 1 was phenomenal. We saw, Florida take down Utah, and Ohio State, Notre Dame. That Florida State LSU game was awesome. Talk about an amazing week 1 game for 2023. 2 teams with very high expectations kicking off the 2023 season. That game's going to be great. But you go all the way back to week 2. James Madison making noise in the Sun Belt, that's great. But App State beat Texas A&M, beginning of the end for the Aggies that year. Marshall went on the road to beat Notre Dame. So 2 top 10 teams go down to Sun Belt opponents. And then Georgia Southern beat Nebraska and ultimately ended Scott Frost's career in Lincoln. Awesome. It's absolutely awesome. It was, I just upsets left and right. You didn't know what the heck was going on. It was amazing. So, yeah, that for me was amazing. And we had a lot of other great games. Alabama LSU was phenomenal. Tennessee and Alabama, probably the game of the year between the Volunteers and the Crimson Tide. That game was just absolutely insane. Was it 52-49? You couldn't have asked for a better matchup in Knoxville. We saw some great games in all the other conferences as well. USC Utah in the regular season was amazing. It was one heck of a ball game. Obviously TCU had some thrillers in there. Saw a really handful of big ones. Kansas, their magical run was a really fun Cinderella story to follow all year long. Over in the ACC, not too many high-quality, thrilling matchups per se, but obviously it was a conference that we knew going into the season was going to be wide open. Was it going to be Clemson that won it? Was it going to be NC State? Was it going to be Wake Forest? Clemson, Wake Forest earlier in the year was a fun one. Who was going to win the Coastal? Was it going to be North Carolina? Was it going to be Pittsburgh? Was it going to be Miami? We didn't know. So a lot of unknowns that ended up being a very fun race to watch all season long. Unreal stuff, guys. Unreal stuff. And I want to get to your questions and comments here. We're about to open up our phone lines for all 17 of you. We want to thank you guys for being here. But I do want to show you this real quick. We like to do this every year when we do our season recaps, and today we want to do it through a live stream instead of just through a normal video. We put out our predictions, right? We put out our predictions every single week right here on the channel. With our game of the weeks, our games of the week, we do our preseason predictions all summer long for you guys to look at, for you guys to debate and tell us that we're wrong and all that stuff, and we love it. Don't get me wrong. We love it. We put out those predictions, and of course we put out our expert picks on our website, thegridironexpert.com, and this is how we did this year. And I got to say, I'm pretty dang proud of it. Best season yet for the expert picks. We've always had a winning record. We've never had a bad year, but this one was pretty phenomenal. 116-69 against the spread through our expert picks. 62.7%, beating out well over 80% of your national analysts and handicappers in the country. Over 80% in the entire country. 62.7% in college, guys. We do have our NFL picks on the website now, getting ready for the playoffs. And then on the money line, so based on the picks that we put out in June and July and August and pretty much every single week throughout the regular season, 447-116. So we predicted over 500 games for you guys this year. Over 500 games, and finished with a 79.4% winning percentage this year. So nearly hit 80%. That record's still better than over 80% of your national analysts and handicappers, and we are ecstatic with those numbers. What a year. Not only was it a phenomenal year just on the field watching the games, but for us here at the Gridiron Expert, for what we pride ourselves on and the content that we create for you, we were producing winners. We are producing a lot of winners for you guys, and we hope you were able to take advantage of it, and we hope that you enjoyed it as much as we did. So 116-69 for the expert picks, 447-116 on the money line, and we are really, really proud of that one. All right, let me get to a couple questions and comments through the chat, and then We'll go to the old iPhone here and let you guys give us a call. So let's see who we have on the chat here. Hunter said he expected the season to be a repeat of the 2007 season. Crazy rankings week in and week out, top teams going down, and the most disappointing team was definitely Texas A&M. And I will see Brett is on the block. Yeah, A&M was a very disappointing year, and Jimbo Fisher is now the only coach ever to have 3 seasons where he's had a team in the top 10 that finished, I think, with a losing record. Let me go check that. I've got that stat pulled up somewhere here from good old Jimbo. Where is it? First college football coach ever to be ranked in the preseason top 6 and finish the season unranked for a 3rd time. He had Florida State at number 3 in 2017. They finished 5-6. He had A&M at number 6 in 2021. They went 8-4, and he had A&M at number 6 again this year, and they finished 5-7. So I would say the 2 most overrated coaches in the entire country are Jimbo Fisher and Lincoln Riley. And man, what a fun bowl game that would be to see them go up against each other. So yeah, great comment there from Hunter. Scotty said, I did know the Big 12 would be very competitive, and you're right, it was. We didn't know who was going to win that conference. That was the beauty of it. There was no clear-cut favorite like some of the other conferences, and that's why the Big 12 is one of the most entertaining conferences to watch. As D. Wayne would tell you, Wreckham, Texas Tech, going to win the Big 12 next year. You very well could. Joey McGuire, phenomenal year 1 in Lubbock, put up some big-time numbers with the Red Raiders, and you could win the Big 12 next year. I mean, you really, really could. I'm excited to see it because you guys torched Ole Miss, had some quality wins down the stretch this year. I'm excited to see what Joey McGuire can do when it's not Matt Wells' players. Not to say that Matt Wells was great, but just to kind of see what he does once he gets his guys in there. But you can't complain with an 8-win season. Doggy, will there ever be a season without the SEC in the playoff? Next year seems to be the last chance of that. You're right, and no, Doggy, there won't be. You will always have an SEC team in the playoff. They won't allow it to happen. Bottom line is, it's just too easy. The West, like this year, for example, the West beat themselves up. LSU was a, 2-3 loss team entering the SEC championship game. And so had they won, had they beat Georgia, they weren't going to the playoff. Georgia was going to go, though, because even if they lost to LSU, they were still going to get in because they were the best team in the country. So that's the bottom line is the West could beat themselves up, and the East team could lose to the West team. The East team's still getting in, vice versa. East beats themselves up. One team's always going to get in. And when you win the toughest conference in the country, unless you are a multi-loss team, which you could make that LSU almost did with 2 losses this year had they not lost to A&M, the SEC will be in there. So no, the SEC will always get in the playoff, and once they get to expansion, it'll always happen. You easily could have 3 or 4 SEC teams in the 12-team playoff, which is pretty hard to believe. Robert says his way too early top 25 team or top 5 teams are Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, and Florida State. Bold, but I like it. R1, good to see you. Do I think Notre Dame can make the playoffs next year with Sam Hartman at quarterback? Yes, I do. I do believe that. Quarterback was so key for them. Obviously, they did pretty well this year with Drew Pine and Tyler Buckner coming back and leading them to the win over South Carolina, one of the best bowl games of the postseason. So I'm not ruling Notre Dame out of anything, but they needed a better quarterback than what they had. Hartman gives them that. He's been one of the best quarterbacks in the country for the last few years. That gives Notre Dame that extra element they need. So as long as the defense plays well, watch out. Notre Dame's going to be legit. I'm very, very excited for that addition. So the best transfer quarterback addition out of any team that got one, better than Spencer Sanders or DJ Uiagalelei or anybody else, that's the one that can make the biggest difference. So I love it. So yes, I do believe Notre Dame can do that 100%. I want to give some shout-outs real quick to, again, R1, Righteous Pimp. Talk is Pitt, good to see you. Congrats on your win over UCLA. Insane win over UCLA. That was just a roller coaster there in the final 2 minutes. So congrats on that. Salty Wings and Avs fan, any hope for MSU? I'm going to assume Michigan State. There is hope. There is hope for Michigan State, but you're not going to get back to your days of 10, 11 win season like you had in year 1 under Mel Tucker. It's just not happening. It's not happening next year. Probably won't happen the year after that. Bowl games, just being competitive and getting to anywhere between the 6 to 8 win mark is what you need right now if you're Michigan State for now. So yeah, that's kind of the way it is. R1, do I watch any basketball? Yes, I do. I watch a ton. I've actually got some basketball on right now. I've got Minnesota and Ohio State on in the corner. So, and I got NBA action on coming on after that. So for sure. Matthew, my guy, Hazelhorse, what's going on, man? Thank you so much for that super chat. Again, guys, those super chats go a long way, and we are really looking forward to making a lot, and I seriously mean that, a lot of changes going forward this offseason. So to make the 2023 season 10 times better. We've said it before, and we've always made, every year we say that, we make some changes that I think makes the channel better. Super chats and stuff like that, that's what helps do it. That's what helps do it. And we're going all out this offseason. I'm very, very excited for it. So Matthew, want to thank you for that. Want to congratulate you on a very successful season for Kansas State. I know the Sugar Bowl did not end the way you wanted to, but man, you were the Big 12 champs. And you were the one of the two only teams to beat TCU this year. It's a pretty big accomplishment. Your comment, TCU definitely could have kept themselves in the game. Georgia wins, but still can keep it close and competitive. Hopefully, it's a wake-up call. And I agree with you on that. It was just embarrassing. It was embarrassing from TCU. And I like what you said. You commented on our recap video for the national championship, and you made some points. Max Duggan was making plays that he wasn't making in the regular season. He wasn't taking the open space. A lot of missed throws, lots of interceptions. It was just a TCU team that didn't look prepared to be there. And as you kind of mentioned, it was a TCU team that seemed like they were never expecting to get past Michigan. It was almost like, yay, we made the playoffs. We're happy to be here. And then it was like, holy crap, we just beat Michigan. Now what do? They were playing scared. They were timid. They seemed clueless. And honestly, once you have such a horrible start like they did, you have a false start on your opening play. Georgia scores like that. Your next possession, you fumble. So immediately, within minutes, you're down 10-0. It's hard to recover. And I will say that I thought when they cut it to 10-7, when TCU did, I was like, okay, we might have a game. They settled down. The jitters are out. Now we've got a ball game. And they just couldn't recover. That defense just did not have an answer for Georgia. And I think it's a mix of both. I think it's a mixture of TCU not being prepared, making bad mistakes, but also Georgia just simply outmatching them, just being way too physical. Games are won at the line of scrimmage, and Georgia dominated that game at the line of scrimmage. So I agree with your point there, though, Matthew. Hopefully they learn from that. The future is very bright. If you go to the national championship in year one with the head coach and Sonny Dykes, who really over the course of his career hadn't done anything, not really a great stint at SMU, not really a great stint at California, hadn't done too much in his career, and his first year he goes to the national championship, you're doing something right. And that's really promising. And with the Oklahoma and Texas soon to leave the Big 12, yes, Cincinnati and Houston and BYU and them aren't going to be pushovers, but you're losing two of your top competitors from the conference here in a few years, which is going to put TCU towards the top of that conference when it comes to recruiting and just competitiveness as a whole, which is a big benefit to them. So be very interested to see how that pans out. But Matthew, I want to thank you for your support, man. Really thank you for being here and for that super chat. Really, really appreciate it. All right, we're going to put our number up on the line or up on the screen, and we're going to pin it at the top of the chat. I want to give a shout out again to Doggy real quick. What did I think of the past World Cup? I was actually, so funny story, and then we're going to put the number up. I'm a huge soccer fan. Might not know that. I'm a huge soccer fan. I love soccer. I love international soccer. I love Premier League soccer. I get really into it. So the World Cup was amazing. Obviously, I was rooting for the United States. Didn't do too well. I was just happy they made it out of the group stage, right? Happy they got to to play the Netherlands. After that, when I realized that was a very good possibility that Messi could win his first World Cup, how could you not root for Argentina? Ronaldo's out, unfortunately. First off, what a run by Morocco. Give them credit. Unreal. And then Messi going to the final to play France. So you had it was like, this was, to put it in like a football terms, it was almost like the Super Bowl between the Chiefs and the Bucks, right? It was the GOAT in Tom Brady facing off against the up-and-comer. That was amazing. And Patrick Mahomes. That was Messi versus Mbappe, right? That was what Argentina versus France was. And so I was in an airport on the day of the final, heading to New York, believe it or not. I was heading to New York on that Sunday. And I'm waiting for my flight to leave. And I had a lot of time to kill. And so I think I was in Memphis. And so I was over there, and the amount of people just surrounding this bar, just a little bar in the middle of the airport. They had all the TVs, had the final on, and obviously they went to PKs. And just the cheers erupting throughout the terminal as Argentina made each kick was just surreal. So it was really cool to be there with people that were just getting so into the game. Some people had jerseys on, some people were indifferent, but that was really like a core memory there to get to watch that final. So I would have analyzed it, wasn't able to because it was gone, but I loved the game, was happy for Argentina, happy for Messi, and really, really cool memory to get to watch that with so many people. I love going to soccer watch parties. I love football watch parties too, but people don't get as into football like they do with soccer, man. It's just a different breed, a different style, it's a different atmosphere, and it was really, really cool. But a phenomenal World Cup. I loved it, and you can bet your money that when it comes here in 2026, North America, Canada, United States, Mexico, I'm going to a lot of games. I'm traveling, and I'm going to a lot of games because I am pumped for 2026. Who knows where we'll be then, right? 3.5 years from now. All right, we're still going to address stuff in the chat, right? We are, but let's get the call-in number up on the screen. We're going to talk to you guys for a while. Don't get me wrong. We're going to hit the chat. We're going to make sure to get to everybody. Shout out to R1 Eddie. What's going on, Eddie? Good to see you, man. The sports expert. Good to see you here as well. And Jerry Turner. Good to see you, Jerry. Nice to have you here, man. I hope you're doing well. Hope you had a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Same goes for all of you. Hope you guys are doing well. But Jerry, nice to see you, my man. Call-in number for tonight for this college football recap, 501-777-5861. That is the number to call. Let me get on to YouTube and pin this thing. How about that? Let's get into the chat. And that way I can take this off the screen. You guys can see us, and we can go to town. 501-777-5861. That is the number to call tonight here on this 2022 college football recap, guys. Recapping what, again, has been a phenomenal season, not just from the games, but also from you guys here making this season fun. You know, we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't without you guys, right? Like, we're not going to sit here and talk football for however many hours and crank out over 1,400. Can you believe it? 1,400 videos in our career here at the Gridiron Expert. We wouldn't do that if we didn't have people that actually watched them and you know, were supporting our channel. So we appreciate you. Here we go. We got our first caller. Let's get them on. Got the caller ID and everything. I know exactly who it is.
From.
All right. What is going on, Hunter? How you doing, man?
Doing well, man. Doing the best I can right now.
Best you can. That doesn't sound too good.
Well, I mean, the only thing I can look forward to right now is basketball. Clemson basketball. We're doing kind of hot in the ACC.
Fair enough. Yeah, y'all are off to a decent start. So hopefully you can get back to the big dance here in March.
So I just want to call you and talk about a few things that I think should be talked about right now.
Yeah, lay it on me.
All right, so the biggest thing right now, do you think Tennessee will be back?
I don't think, no. I mean, they're going to remain contenders for sure, but they're not going to. Next year, they're not going to be as good as they were this year. I wouldn't say not a chance, but I'm not expecting that. 8-9 wins maybe. I haven't done a deep dive into their schedule, but no, they will not be as good as they were this year.
All right. Next thing, what do you think about all the Texas A&M players transferring in their first season? Do they just not believe in them?
Do I think what?
Do you just think that they just don't believe in the team? I mean, if you look, almost all of them are transferring.
Yeah, it's just a bad situation at A&M right now. Here's the thing. Jimbo Fisher took over that job in 2018, was his first year at A&M, and he's done nothing. The best season he had was a COVID year where everybody was screwed up and they won 10 games and won the Orange Bowl. That was his best season at A&M. Every other year, went 5-7 this last year after high expectations, 8-4, whatever. And I think people aren't buying it anymore. We're not going to buy what Jimbo Fisher's selling. We know players will transfer out of the program for really two reasons in particular. It's you want to go somewhere else where you either have a better chance to win, which away from A&M would be the place to do that. You want to go get more playing time, or the ship's about to sink, and let's go ahead and get out before it all comes crashing down. I think a lot of these A&M players know, number one, they're not going to win at A&M. They're not going to win next year at A&M. And number two, this ship is sinking because 5-7 after starting in the preseason top 10 is not good. And that's a really hard thing to just turn around and be contenders the next year. A&M's not going to be a contender next year. So I think they're trying to go somewhere where they can start winning and can start making more of an impact because I think they've lost a lot of faith in Jimbo Fisher.
All right, good answers. Probably my second to last question is, what do you think of Colorado? Do you think that these explosive freshmen will probably lead them to a bowl game after a very terrible season this year, or will they be mediocre?
I think mediocre at best. I don't have faith in Deion Sanders at this level. I think it's more of a PR stunt than anything else. I think what he did at Jackson State was solid, but 2 years in a row at Jackson State he failed to win the Celebration Bowl. So congratulations, you're beating up on inferior opponents at the FCS level, but you can't win the Celebration Bowl, which is a bit like the Super Bowl, really, for them, their national championship. And so now he's going to come to Colorado. He's extremely arrogant. I don't have anything against Deion. I think I like him as a person, but as a coach, I don't think he's going to succeed at Colorado. And there's something to be said for a guy that can coach, and a guy, it's that same guy. 5-star talent versus 5-star culture. He's bringing in a bunch of 5-star talent. What's the culture like? Does he have the staff to coach these guys up? You can't just throw a bunch of 5-stars out there and expect to start winning. I think that's what Deion Sanders thinks he's going to do by bringing in his players from Jackson State, by bringing in these big-time recruits. I don't think it's going to pan out like people think. So mediocre at best.
All right, and the final question: who you got this weekend, Duke or Clemson in basketball?
Where's it being played?
I think it's being played at Little John.
If it's being played at Clemson, then give me Clemson.
All right.
Duke's not what they used to be, man. I mean, if you watched them last night against Pittsburgh, they didn't play that well. They were down 11 at halftime, needed a big second half to come back. It's John Shire. I mean, I like him as a guy. It's hard to fill the shoes of a legend like Coach K, but Duke is not what they used to be, at least not this year. So if it's at Clemson, I think they're going to struggle, and I think they're going to lose.
All right, well, thank you for that. That's all I wanted to talk to you about, and this was a wild season, but, yeah, I'll call next time when you have another lecture.
Hey, will do. Appreciate you, Hunter. Have a good one, man.
All right, you too.
All right, this guy, Hunter, my man, I love him. He is fast on the phones. First caller ever. First caller tonight. Hunter, we appreciate you calling, man. And again, thank you for all your support. I want to give a shout out to, again, Jerry Turner. Good to see you. Shout out to Graham Brooks. Good to see you, man. Glad to have you on the live stream, at least for a little bit. And, like we said, we haven't done one in a while. And it just kind of got, you know how life gets. It gets hectic, unfortunately. But we hope to, wrap things up. This is going to put a bow on the 2022 season. And then we'll start cranking out a bunch of off-season content, especially through the NFL. Have a couple of live streams sprinkled throughout these next few months, and then really hit it hard around June and stuff like that and be more consistent. So we're looking forward to that. But Graham, good to see you. Paxton, good to see you. David Cattell, good to see you. No, we have not talked about the NIL, but we will soon. But let's get this caller on here. Oh, we lost him. We answered, and we lost him. Maybe we waited too long. Give us a call back. Someone from Pennsylvania. Not sure it was. But David, good to see you, my man. Hello from Jacksonville. I love it. And we haven't really gotten too much into NIL talk. I think a lot of people know my stance on that. Not a big fan of it. Hate it, to be honest with you. I think it's bad for college football, or really just for athletics, period. But we will talk about that here soon for sure. Now we're getting the call from from Pennsylvania. Let's get him on. All right, I'm getting him on speaker here. All right, who is on the Gridiron Expert with us?
Hey, it's Talking Spit.
Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Can't complain, Football season, to be honest, ended up going a lot better than I thought. After after everything that went down, I honestly thought we would only go 6-6, but we ended up going 9-4. And history has shown that's not something we normally do after having a good football season. You know, winning the ACC, which Miami still has yet to do. Throwing shade there. And I ended up winning 9 games. We've won 20 games over the past 2 years, and I'm not saying we're going to be back to what we were back in the 70s and the 80s, but I can definitely tell you our days of mediocrity are starting to, be behind us.
Well, I mean, it's definitely trending in the right direction. I mean, definitely, I would say 9-10 win seasons are definitely above mediocre for sure. I mean, you won the ACC last year, and then the win over UCLA was really, really impressive. I mean, to battle back from 14 down to find a way to win the game without Slovis, without Abanikanda, without a lot of big-time defensive players, and to win that game, and then to have your backup quarterback get you all the way down the field after UCLA took the lead late. I mean, that took a lot of guts. And I want to give a lot of credit to Pat Narduzzi for that, for 2 back-to-back really good seasons when people were kind of getting fed up with him. They were tired of 7-win seasons, 7, 8-win seasons. They wanted to be better than that, and he's done that. Next year, though, will be very, very telling. What's going to come next year? Are they going to revert back to a 7 or 8-win season after as many people as they lose, or are they going to remain legitimate contenders in the Coastal Division? That's kind of the million-dollar question.
Well, I'm not sure because we're probably still not done grabbing maybe 1 or 2 more high school commits and maybe grabbing somebody else from the transfer portal because I think we could use a tight end because we only have one good one, Gavin Bartholomew. Other than that, honestly, I'm not sure because we have a number of players returning that I originally thought we would lose. Like most of our offensive line is going to return except one. We actually technically only lose one defensive line starter, Kalijah Cansey, because John Morgan wasn't a starter. He transferred to Arkansas, but he wasn't a starter. Desmond Alexander was. So a lot of backups last year because of the amount of injuries that every single starter got. Because every starter we had last year was injured at some point, and that includes Slovis.
Right.
So a lot of the backups we had saw more playing time than the actual starters. So do we really lose starters, or I'm not sure how you would actually read into that.
No, that's actually a really valid point, right? I mean, you look at the depth of the team, and it's really beneficial because you're right. It wasn't just that these guys got playing time from a bowl game. It was that a lot of people got hurt in the regular season, and so people that were second string, third string, whatever, had to be put into action, and now they're going to become the quote-unquote starters this upcoming year. And so you're getting new starters that have 3-4 games of experience at a legitimate, in legitimate playing time, not just at a random bowl game, not just at the in garbage time. It's real playing time. So it's an excellent point. I think a lot of people are going to forget about that. If you in the media, of course, if you look at ESPN or if you read a preseason magazine, will denote it as only 2 returning starters or 3 returning starters, whatever. But you're right, from a depth standpoint, you're going to have a bunch of guys in there that have played a lot more than just 1 or 2 games, and that could play along a pretty big role in the success next year.
Yeah, it definitely should. And I mean, the biggest concern is obviously the quarterback situation now that Keaton Slovis transferred to BYU. Good luck, BYU. I'm praying for you. With Slovis transferring to BYU, that brings in Phil Jurkovec from Boston College. Now, I'm not high on Phil Jurkovec, but there's also a lot of things that did not go his way at Boston College. Well, I mean, obviously the injuries are a big concern. He's on his 3rd school. That's also my other concern. I'm not too fond of trusting quarterbacks who have transferred multiple times. I don't like that. I think you should be able to transfer once.
I agree. I don't like players bouncing
and I
around.
don't think you should be able to opt out of bowl games either. That's just my personal opinion. If you have an NIL deal, I think there should be somewhere in that clause that makes you play in that bowl game. But that's besides the point. Then we got another quarterback. Actually, we ended up getting 3 more quarterbacks. Christian Bowe from Penn State. I don't know if that name rings a bell to you.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, we got him, and then we got Ty Dysenbach from Las Vegas, and then got a high school quarterback commit. But we're making, we're making good progress as far as getting out of mediocrity. Now, winning the ACC, that's a completely different story. I know somebody in the chat said Pitt would win the ACC, but I think doing away with divisions just made it just that more difficult.
No, I do agree with that, and I'm gonna let you go here, Talkers Pitt, but I'm gonna continue answering your question as we get you off.
No problem.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for the call.
having me on.
Yeah, you got it. All right, so that was Talkers Pitt, and to continue his question there, winning the ACC going to be a little bit more difficult with them ditching divisions, and he's right. I mean, that's tough for anybody. I mean, you think about it. Think about any conference. I mean, the Big 12, I know, does not have divisions right now, but any conference, there's typically one division that's weaker than the other, right? The SEC East is weaker than the West. The Big 10 West is weaker than the East. And I would say right now the Coastal in the ACC is weaker than the Atlantic. So it allows for, in this case for Pittsburgh, it would allow them to have a better shot at winning the Coastal, making a run for an ACC championship, rather than putting them all clumped together. Then you're just taking the top 2 teams from the conference, which could be Clemson and Florida State. It could be Clemson and Wake Forest. I mean, you got to take the top 2. The room for error, to me, is much smaller, and the pool is obviously much bigger. And if you have one super powerhouse in your conference, and so let's use Clemson as the example for ACC, Alabama or Georgia for the example in the SEC. If you have one, then you really have one spot left. One spot left with all the remaining teams to try to find a spot in the ACC or any sort of conference championship. So you're right, that makes the job a lot more difficult. But I like what he said, though. That goes for any team. If you look at a team, and you go, man, we lose, 8 starters this year on offense. Well, in the case of Pittsburgh, dig a little deeper and you go, yeah, we do. We lose 8 starters, but half of those starters were hurt for 3 or 4 games. So the guys that were their backups are now starters. They're not really, fresh meat. They're not fresh players. They're guys that have been playing. They have the experience. They know the system. And so, they might not be the great quarterback that we once had or the great wide receiver that we once had, but they've got enough experience they can make an immediate impact and they're not going to be completely lost. And that is something to be, excited about. And something that I think a lot of people are going to forget over the course of the offseason. So it's a really excellent point, Talkers Pitt there. And that goes for every team, not just Pittsburgh in this scenario. But that's an excellent point in the long run. So thank you again for that call and for that point. I liked it a lot. All right, I want to hit a couple questions here in the chat as the phone line still will remain open at 501-777-5861. From Graham here, Hunter did not talk about Garrett Riley, but definitely worth noting, obviously. I like what you said there at the end. I didn't think Dabo would let go of Streeter. Incredible hire. First off, yes, incredible hire. That's huge. I mean, you're pairing Riley with Klubnik, a young quarterback who needs some development, and we just saw what he was able to do with Max Duggan. He made him a Heisman finalist. A Max Duggan quarterback that wasn't even supposed to be the starter at the beginning of the year. So that should give everybody a lot of confidence and optimism heading into this season for Clemson, the pair of one of the best offensive minds of the game with such a young quarterback that we have seen flashes of brilliance from. What this shows me from Dabo, though, is he's tired of being complacent. We saw Dabo for the majority. I mean, fans were calling for Klubnik. Get him in there. Get him in there. DJ had some good games over the course of the year, especially earlier in the year, right? He had a really good game against Wake Forest, was pretty solid against NC State, kind of struggled there towards the end, especially that Notre Dame game is what killed him, and South Carolina games like that. But Dabo was committed to DJ. I know he took him out in that Syracuse game, but he was pretty committed to DJ. And people are like, why? What is the loyalty here? Clearly, we think Cade's better. Cade has shown that he's better. Put him in. And so to get rid of an offensive coordinator after just 1 year is really, really interesting to me. And I think it just kind of showed. I think it showed the offensive struggles over the course of the regular season. He was frustrated with the offensive struggles in the bowl game against Tennessee. And he was like, we've got to make a change. We've got to get back to the days of when our offense was one of the best in the country. Like when we had, all the great quarterbacks of years past. You had Taj Boyd, you had Deshaun Watson, you had Trevor Lawrence. Guys like that. I know you had different coordinators during that time, but those were really, really good offenses and ones that were tough to stop. You weren't going to have that with Brandon Streeter. It just wasn't going to happen. Garrett Riley can give you that. So that is a huge, huge addition for Clemson. One heck of a hire. And the fact that it happened like that, Streeter fired, boom, and Riley in, boom. It was fast, and that's really, really huge for Clemson, and should give people a lot of faith going into next year. If there wasn't enough excitement already, saying, "Hey, yeah, we didn't win go to the playoff or anything, but we're still reigning ACC champs. We got Klubnik getting out. Let's see what we can do." Now you've got a great offensive mind to go with that young quarterback. I still think Clemson, despite the hype around Florida State, despite a handful of other teams expecting to have solid years, I still will stand by Clemson being the team to beat in the ACC next year, although that game against Florida State ultimately could decide who wins the division, maybe very well who could win the conference. So, Graham, excellent point. Paxton, yes, we will have college basketball content in the future. I don't know how much we'll have here on the channel because I want to get through football first, right? So we're wrapping up college football today. The 2022 season, done. 2022 ends now. Going forward, and we're gonna talk about this in a little bit, but going forward, we'll have way too early top 25. We'll address some of the major coaching changes, and like we've done in the past, give you our grades. You just heard us talk about Deion Sanders. I'm sure you can imagine he's not going to be an A+ hire for us, like some people would put out there. He's just not. So we're gonna kind of break down some of the coaching hires, grade them, what to expect from them in year one. We'll do some schedule previews for some of the top teams in the country, getting you ready for 2023. But what we want to know, we'll sprinkle in some college basketball. We'll definitely have some March Madness discussions on there, talking about the NCAA tournament. We might talk a little bit of NBA. Any live streams that we do, we'll be definitely willing to talk about that. Heck, we just talked about the World Cup a few minutes ago. So we're always open here on live stream to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. But what I want to know is what do you want to see? Leave that in the comments of the chat or in the comments of the actual video, whatever you want to do. What do you want to see? Because we've got a long lineup, right? We've got the way too early top 25. We're going to talk about the coaching hires. We're going to talk about the schedule previews. We're going to do a series over the course of the offseason, a handful of videos. If you're into Marvel or if you're into Star Wars or whatever it is, you heard of the What If series, one event in history that changes and how it would affect the long run. So we're going to do a What If college football series. I don't know exactly when that's going to start, but we're going to have a series of videos about that. So, what if, a certain player goes to another school? What if Justin Fields had been the quarterback at Georgia? What if Justin Fields never goes to Ohio State? What if, where was Deshaun Watson committed to originally, right? Was he committed to Georgia or Alabama? I don't know where he was supposed to go. What if, a certain coach goes somewhere else? What if Nick Saban doesn't go to Alabama? What if, one game changes, right? What if in 2007 Kansas had won the national championship? What if Kansas had defeated Missouri and gone to the national championship and won it instead of just winning the Orange Bowl? Does that change the trajectory of Kansas football as we know it? So we're going to have a big what if series about certain things. But if you have something that you've been on your mind, what if this, what if that, leave it for us. We would love, what are some of the biggest what ifs in college football? Lay it on there for us, and we're going to do it, right? We're going to talk about it, what could happen. So we're looking forward to that. So the rankings, the schedule previews, the coaching changes, the what if series. We've got NFL coverage. Tomorrow, NFC predictions come out. Next week, we're doing individual videos on all the divisional games. We'll have the championship games. We'll have the Super Bowl. Sprinkling in as much content as we can. That's going to be a lot of our stuff, right? So, but we want to take your, oh, wow, we're getting a lot of suggestions already. We're writing this down now. I love it. So we got, Saban never went to Bama. and then stay to LSU. I like that. Jerry says, what if USC had beaten Texas? I like it. All right, and then Graham says, that's a good one. What if Colt McCoy never got hurt? Yeah, what does that do for Texas, right? Does Texas beat Alabama? Does the Bama dynasty begin? I like that one a lot. So yeah, this is boom, just like that. It's like 4 different videos right there. And those were some that we kind of had in our mind. We had some other ones in mind too. Let's see here. How about history? I'd like to see your take on why Ohio and Ohio State ended up with the trajectories they went. Okay, I like that. Yeah. What if we never had a college football playoff? All right. Look at this. Look at that. This teamwork right here. RG3 doesn't go to Baylor from Scotty. I'm going to erase that real quick. I got to get that one back on there. Baylor. What if no playoff? What if Tua doesn't get put in the national championship? Or what if Hurts stays in the national championship instead of Tua? I love it. This is great. Who else? Bama. Yeah, Bama does that. Yeah. What if Alabama played Georgia? What if Gary Pinkel never retired? Like that. So this is good stuff, guys. I love it. Any more you guys think of, lay them on there. Because we have some lined up and we're ready for Brian Kelly never left Notre Dame. Which that one's kind of short term already. Like, it's only been a year. I don't know how much we can say what if there. So that's interesting. But and I like Doggy said too, history is in terms of trajectories of certain in-state teams. Why'd they go their separate ways? Why they worked the way they did. So that's a great question too, and we can talk about that also. So appreciate you guys. Great topics. Great topics. What if Oklahoma had won the Rose Bowl, right? Like, what if they had beat Georgia in that classic? Who would have happened there? And this can go far back, too. We can go far back, early. We go 80s, 90s, whatever. What if playoff had started in 10? Yes, what if we'd always had a playoff, Started in 2010 at the beginning of the decade. Who would it have been? I actually like that a lot. Different playoff scenarios are a lot of fun. Can kind of see what would it have looked like, especially considering, shortly after 2010, you had LSU playing Alabama, which is really what forced the playoff to happen, right? LSU played Alabama instead of LSU Oklahoma State. First time we'd really seen 2 teams from the same conference play each other in a national championship, and people were like, this is ridiculous, this is unfair, and then the playoff came just a few years later. So great point there by Graham. What if the kick 6 never happened? I like that. 2016 Cavaliers. Good to see you, my man. So these are things that we're going to do, right? We're going to have like a series of video. And some of them will be short. Some will be a little longer. But it's we'll show some things that could have happened in college football. And that kind of gets you thinking a little bit. It's a little bit fun. Like I said, if you like Marvel, they like the What If series with Marvel. One thing in history changes, and it alters everything. It's like the butterfly effect. Changes everything. I can't remember what story it was. It's like an old literature story you read in like in middle school. But this guy, he goes back in time, and they go to like the prehistoric days, and he accidentally steps. It's the butterfly effect. He steps on the butterfly. Think it's harmless. All I did was I killed a bug 365 million years ago, and it alters the entire course of history. So what if one thing changes? How does it affect the entire course of history? And that's how a coach could do it, a play could do it, a player could do it. One thing changes. They go to a different school, they stay put, the ball bounces a different way, and everything in college football could change. Maybe for the year, maybe for history, we don't know. I like that. Who said that? Jerry said, what if SMU never got the death penalty? I like that. That's a great question. Actually, that's a really good one. Really good one there. So that's a lot of off-season content, guys, and I appreciate all of that. Yes, and Graham says, what if was a lit series, by the way. Yes, it was. It was a really, really good series. What if BCS was still around? What if Ohio State made the field goal? Yeah, it really, really was. a great series. I'm a big Marvel guy. I'm a big Star Wars guy. I'm into the sci-fi stuff. What can I say? I'm excited, Graham. If you're a Marvel guy, I'm sure you're like me. You're excited for Quantum Mania in about a month or so. The trailer for that looks amazing, and it's about to get real. You know, we thought this stuff might have been done with Endgame, right? Like oh, it's over. Not thank God. It's like, okay. I mean, we knew Marvel wasn't done, but now it's about to get even darker and more intense, and it's gonna be fun. So I'm pretty pumped for that. I think I'm whenever they put tickets on sale soon, I'm gonna buy them so I can go like on opening night, because spoilers. You get on Twitter and it just ruins everything, right? So what if Nick Saban left Alabama for Arkansas? A boy could wish, right? What I'd do for that. And you can make that case for anything, right? What if Nick Saban goes to any other school other than Alabama? He leaves the Dolphins and goes to Arkansas. He leaves the Dolphins and goes to Colorado. I mean, he was never going to be a guy to go to a lower level school. I mean, you think about it. I think he coached Toledo to Michigan State to LSU to the Dolphins to Alabama. I mean, a coach has got to start small, of course. That's why he was at Toledo. But he doesn't last long. He was never going to leave to go somewhere mediocre. And, so I have no confidence after the train wreck there was Phase 4. Well, that's fair, doggy. That's fair. That I'll admit I didn't watch a whole lot of the Disney Plus shows recently in Phase 4. Such as She-Hulk, I didn't watch a lick of that one. I heard it was terrible. And I just didn't have a desire to watch it. I didn't watch was it Miss Marvel or whatever it was. I didn't watch that. So I'm a little bit behind on my shows. I know they all tie into each other, but I just couldn't do it. So yeah. Keep the what if stuff going, guys. Even though we're not writing them all down. I mean, you can see we've got a lot of them that you guys wrote to us. But I'm gonna make sure to go back to the chat, obviously when the live stream ends later, and get some extra ones we want. So you got Jerry talking about Syracuse, Tulane, the Big 12. Baylor never had the scandal in 2016. Great questions there. So keep them coming. And we'll put a community text thing, on YouTube. We'll put an actual post out there, and you guys can comment those as we continue to work on these over the next few months. Because again, we got a lot of stuff coming up. Robert says you should create a second channel. Maybe so. I probably should. I probably need to, just to have a backup. I tell you guys, if we can make this a full-time gig, we'd be living the dream. You make YouTube a full-time job to where we can just talk football with you guys a year long. So I can crank out all these what if videos instead of having to go to work every day. That'd be phenomenal. Maybe one day we'll get there. All right. Again, phone lines are still open. They're there. 501-777-5861. So they are there for you guys. Great questions and comments so far. I want to address a few more. David, if you're still here, I'm not sure. I will talk about the NIL here 1 second, because Talk is Pitt made a really good point about that I do want to address. The Owl, FAU, I like it. Michigan had a great season, even with a loss in the college football playoff. And I'm going to touch more on the playoff here in a second. Paxton, I want Nate Oates at Texas instead of John Calipari. It'll be one of the two, Paxton. It'll be one of the two. Texas will go hard at both of them. It's just a matter of if one of them will take it. My gut says if one was going to take it, it would be Calipari, just because I think he's ready for a fresh start. But you never know. Kentucky would be kind of crazy to let him go, but I think Calipari's ready to get out. Just me personally. Scotty, who will take the biggest step back next year? That's a really good question too, that we might do a video about also. I mean, what teams, are poised to take a step back? Let me write that down. Because, every year we have like a Cinderella team and a team that kind of catches us also by surprise. They're not going to maintain that success. Hunter called earlier. He says Tennessee going to be the same next year. And I was like, Tennessee's going to be good next year. They're not going to just fall off. But are they going to be as good as they were this year? Probably not. Will TCU be as good as they were next year? No, they're not. They're not going to be as good. They're not going to be a playoff semifinalist next year. They're just not. I also said that last year, and they proved me wrong. People are going to prove you wrong, but my money would be on Tennessee taking a minor step back. TCU taking this last year. We saw Michigan State have a phenomenal year. They took a major step back. didn't even make a bowl game after winning the Peach Bowl over Pittsburgh. A couple years ago, we saw North Carolina and A&M both go to the Orange Bowl. Both of them took a major step back in 2021. So every year, you're going to see teams take a step back. They're poised for a step back because of how much they lost. We saw Iowa State take a major step back after the loss of Brock Purdy and Breece Hall. They won 7 games. Disappointing in 2021. Didn't even go bowling this year. So there's always a team that's going to do that. Arkansas took a step back, won 9 games in 21, only won 7 this year, barely made a bowl game. So there's just so many teams that are poised because of tough schedules, coaching changes, new players, a lot that goes into it. And we'll do a video on that as well. I really like that one, Scotty. So great point, and there's going to be a lot. We probably wouldn't be able to talk about all of them. A lot of great what-if questions, though. Let's see here. Hey, Eddie, I'm not avoiding you, my man. What's up, Eddie? I have a question. If Drinkwitz doesn't work out, I think Missouri should hire a big-time coach to go back to the Gary Pinkel days and compete in the SEC. Yeah, I mean, that's what you got to do, right? There are certain fan bases that, in programs, I should say, that need to hire big-name coaches. I don't think Missouri is one of them. Missouri is not a program that demands excellence. It needs a big-time coach to excite the fan base, as compared to Ohio State, Texas, Alabama once Saban leaves, guys like that, right? You need someone that you have faith in. Missouri, if they ever get rid of Drinkwitz, would probably promote a former coordinator up there. I don't know if they're going to be able to get a big-time hire because Missouri's just not that big-time school. However, you're right. You're in the SEC. And what the beauty of Gary Pinkel is, as one of the greatest coaches of all time at Missouri, what he showed was that it's possible. It's not only possible to win consistently in the Big 12, it's possible to win consistently in the SEC. Now, granted, back when he was there, Georgia was not what they are, like they are now. Florida had a couple down years during his time there. The East was very, very weak those years that Missouri ended up winning the SEC. South Carolina was pretty solid for a couple of those years. They were probably up there as one of the elites in the SEC East. But the East has just changed. Tennessee. But that's the beauty, again, of college football, right? Right now, we are in a state where Georgia is the king of the SEC. They are the king of the East. And you think, no, you're not going to be able to bring them down. You're not going to be able to top them. But 5-10 years from now, roles could be very much reversed. A lot of things can change in college football, and they can change very, very quickly. So I do agree with you on that. You're going to need a big-name coach. I don't know who that guy would be. Depends on who's on the market. But Drinkwitz saved his job by getting to a bowl game, by beating Arkansas and getting to a bowl game. He saved his job for a little bit. Losing to Wake Forest by 10 was not ideal. If he fails to make a bowl game this upcoming year, I think he's gone. But he bought himself a little bit more time by getting to the postseason. It's a matter of what can he do now in 2023. Graham, good one too. What if TCU makes the playoff? Like they probably should have. What if they go in 2014 instead of Ohio State? Crazy thing about all that is, Ohio State ended up winning. Ohio State ended up winning the college football playoff that year. Excuse me, I got an email. I had to look at it. Ended up winning the national championship that year. So everybody was like, oh, we put in the right team. And they did, I guess. They upset Alabama. They beat Oregon in the national championship. But what if TCU got in? Because that TCU team was good. Dangerously good. Would they have beat Alabama had they gotten in as the 4 seed? Would they have beat Oregon or Florida State? That gets into seeding too. Would TCU have been a 4 seed? Would they have been a 3 seed? Would the matchups have been the same? Would they have been different? Would they have beaten Alabama? I mean, a lot goes into that. So that's a great question there, Graham. If TCU had made the playoff in 2014, what happens? Because Ohio State wouldn't have done it. Would Alabama have another national title to their name? Would Oregon have finally gotten a title? Would Jimbo Fisher won a second national title? Probably not, because really, that part wouldn't have changed, right? If Alabama plays TCU, Florida State still plays Oregon. TCU getting in doesn't affect the outcome of Florida State-Oregon. Oregon still crushes Florida State. It's really just a matter of, does Oregon play Alabama or does Oregon play TCU? Would it have been Marcus Mariota versus Trayvon Boykin, or would it have been who was their quarterback in 2014? Was it Blake Sims for Alabama? I think it was. It would have been Marcus Mariota versus Trayvon Boykin, or would it have been who was their quarterback in 2014? Was it Blake Sims for Alabama? I think it was. For Alabama, 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 I think it was. Who asked that? Owl. Can I make my early college football playoff predictions for next year? My early predictions. I can't. I mean, kinda. I got Georgia. Because if you've seen Georgia's schedule, it is probably the easiest schedule in the country. It's absolutely ridiculous. So Georgia is almost pretty much a lock for the playoff, I feel like. So give me Georgia in there for sure. The problem is we're seeing a lot of guys leave. I mean, it's a new era. Ohio State's going to be without C.J. Stroud. Alabama's going to have some new people in there. There's a lot of changes coming your way for some of the elite teams in there. ACC is solid, but do I think that Florida State or Clemson gets in? I'm not really sure. We're getting a call from our man Nick. We're going to take him, make it the last call of the night, and then we'll finish up with the chat. But I'm going to come back to that. Don't let me forget. Hey, what's going on, Nick? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, bro. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. I hope you had a good Christmas and Happy New Year, man.
Happy New Year, too, man. I did, bro.
Good to hear. What's going on, man?
How about my dog, man?
Well, I should say congratulations, because that was probably the biggest beatdown that I have ever seen. That was truly an unbelievable performance.
Yeah, it was, and everybody from why did Kirby go over 65? Like, he sent a message, not just to TC, he sent a message to the entire college football world that Georgia's on top, and we ain't coming off the mountain.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was a message to make sure everybody knew that they were the best team in the country, and to leave no doubt. No doubt that they were the top team in the country. They did not want that game to be close. Yeah, I mean, it was historic. Most points ever scored in a championship, largest margin of victory ever in a championship. There was not a single soul in the country that left or ended that game saying, I bet someone else could have beaten them. Like, Georgia clearly showed they were the ones.
Yeah, but like, I don't know if you caught it, but Kirby's soundbite before that game got leaked. Because when I heard it, I'm like, damn, I want him to go off. He just talking about shit.
His pregame speeches are pretty awesome. He's an intense coach, and I love it.
Yeah, Nick Saban face and David Pollard said everybody's talking like, yeah, because he was, Nick Saban was like, he didn't know what to say. Like, he didn't know what to say because he know David Pollard is right.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the conversation pretty much all offseason, right? It's going to be who is the new dynasty in college football? Does the title still go to Alabama, or is it Georgia now? Has the torch been passed from Alabama to Georgia? The thing is, Alabama's still a great team. I don't think their dynasty is over by any means. But when you win back-to-back championships, you can start calling yourself a dynasty. You really can. And so next year will be telling, with as easy of a schedule as Georgia has, if they go on a three-peat and they win 3 straight national titles for the first time for any team since the 1930s, yeah, they are the new dynasty, no doubt about it.
Definitely, man. And I looked at our schedule too. I don't see nobody on that schedule that's going to beat us. Maybe, and this is a maybe, Tennessee.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tricky game because they are getting really better. Like I said, it's a easy to below average schedule. I don't see anybody in the East that's going to compete with us. I'm not worried about the defense. The defense is going to be fine. That has never worried me. I mean, the defense showed out like they do all year, especially these 2 freshmen, Bear Alexander and Michael Williams. They're just freshmen, so I'm not worried about the defense. Offense is going to be fine, especially the way Tom Monken's calling it. Tom Monken's should be making $50 million a year the way he adjusts his offense and made 7 minutes a Heisman fucking front runner.
Right.
Like I said, Carson Beck is going to be the starter. The offense is going to be probably even better with Carson because he can actually throw the ball. No disrespect to Stetson. I'm grateful for what he did. I'm happy for him. I love his story, but it's time to move on.
Yeah, and that's the kind of funny thing. Everybody was kind of criticizing Stetson. He's old. He's 25 years old, and he was good. I mean, he did a lot of good things for Georgia. He was not a bad quarterback by any means, but he was not carried. I mean, he played a big role, but the defense was the difference maker in last year's championship run. I would say I credit more the defense than Stetson Bennett. This year, he deserves a little bit more credit. They wouldn't have won the championship without him. They wouldn't have beat Ohio State without him. But I agree. It's time to get a new guy in there. It's time to get a young gun in there. And Carson Beck, from what I've heard, he's going to be a dog. He's going to be pretty awesome. And like you said, with the schedule that you have,
Hell, he won Florida, I think Gatorade Player of the Year in Florida at his school. So
yeah, which is very, very impressive to do. Yeah, I mean, it's the future. Look, as we all know, with these elite teams, your Georgias, your Bamas, Clemson, Ohio States, these are teams that they reload, they don't rebuild. So Georgia, even last year, they lost a lot of starters, like 11, 15 first-round draft picks, and yet here they are going undefeated again. So that part, they'll be fine.
Hey, I also got another question, bro. I think Michigan will win the East. I just don't see. I think Ohio State might be gonna take a little step back. To me personally, I think Ohio State's gonna lose that game against Notre Dame on that third week, and I also got Miami beating Texas A&M. So.
Yeah, I need to do a deeper dive into the schedule for next year. I mean, I know there's already a lot of big marquee matchups and a couple of just return games from games that we saw this year. We're going to see Florida State LSU again. We should see Ohio State Notre Dame. We're going to see Miami and A&M. So we got a couple big games early in the year, which I'm really looking forward to. And I haven't done too deep of a dive into them. Haven't done too many predictions in them, but those will be coming out pretty soon, and we'll kind of have a better idea of what to expect from these teams.
You got Miami or Florida State winning the ACC this year? Because I'm done. To me, Clemson is done. If Dabo's not going to use the transfer portal, he's not doing anything. And you kind of feel bad for Clemson fans because I'm like, they want him to use it, but he just doesn't want to use it. And I'm like, dude, you're not going to win every game with just freshmen. Like, when are you going to get it to your thick head that time has changed? You got everybody's in the portal. Kirby Smart does it. Nick Saban do it to fill pieces, to fill holes that they need. Clemson just bringing in a whole bunch of freshmen.
Yeah, and that Dabo has been very stubborn about that, right? That he's not a guy that has, for some reason, wanted to utilize the transfer portal. And unfortunately, for any coach, that's just the way football is now. That's the way college football is going. You have to adapt and change with the times. If you're not willing to adapt and change, you're going to get left behind. You're going to get left in the dust. And Clemson hasn't been left behind in the dust yet, but they're marching there. They missed out on the ACC championship last year. They won it this year, but still didn't go to the playoff. Got killed by Tennessee. And you're right, they're running out of time to remain towards the top of the college football elite unless Dabo starts to change. And step one was getting a new offensive coordinator, and he's done that, which was phenomenal. But you're right.
Oh, he did? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he fired Streeter. They got Garrett Riley, so they're going to be set in that regard. So next year should be a lot better offensively because of the changes that he made. But you're right. You've got to be able to go through and utilize people in the transfer portal. That's how people are rebuilding and remaining contenders.
Oh, they got Garrett Riley from TCU?
That is the report. Yes.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it all happened today. It happened really, really fast.
That's good because that offense was horrible last year.
Yeah, it was bad. I mean, and I blame Streeter a lot for that. I also blame DJ Uiagalelei. Both of them are gone now. So you put in a young offensive mind like Riley plus a young quarterback in Cade Klubnik, and I think they're going to gel extremely well.
Speaking of DJ, what do you think about him going to Oregon State, and how do you think the Pac-12 is going to do this year, man? What's your thoughts on Colorado? Just for a quick brief minute.
Yeah, real quick, yeah, because we're about to have to get off. I'm not sold on Deion Sanders. I'm not sold on him as a coach. I don't think Colorado's going to do as well as people think they're going to do. That's a major, major rebuilding project, and I don't care how many transfers you're bringing in. I don't care how many 5-stars you're bringing in. It takes a long time to rebuild a program like that from the ground up from a bunch of players that haven't been there. So I think it's great. I think it's great exposure for Colorado, and they're going to be 10 times better than what they were last year, 100%. You can't really get much worse. But I'm not sold on Colorado automatically becoming some giant contender under Deion Sanders. I just don't see it.
Understandable. I don't think they'll have them making a bowl game. I kind of do have them making a bowl game. That's my opinion.
I hope they make a bowl game. I want to see them in a bowl game. I really, really do. But I'm just not entirely sold on them yet.
Are you sold on Oregon State winning, at least being in a contender?
Well, 100%. Yeah, Jonathan Smith has been phenomenal. And Corvallis, you add DJ, who's not a bad quarterback. I think just was in a tough system. Yeah, you win 10 games and return a lot of key players from that 10-win team. Oregon State's going to be dangerous next year. They're going to be a preseason top 20 team, no doubt.
All right, man. Thank you for my call, bro. Appreciate it. Go Dogs.
Hey, appreciate you, Nick. Take care, man. All right, that's our boy Nick. Right here in my own backyard, right here in Arkansas. I always appreciate getting to hear from you, man. And again, congrats on your national title. Congrats, Robert, on your national title, and to all your Georgia fans out there. It's pretty dang exciting. Not only to just win a national championship, but to win back-to-back national championships. That's unbelievable. All right, last call of the night there. Let's finish up here in the chat, then we'll call it a night, and we'll call it a wrap on the 2022 season. How about that? Crazy, right? Just because we say it's a wrap, though, doesn't mean we're done, right? Tomorrow, NFC playoff predictions coming out. We put out our AFC today, NFC tomorrow. Next week, way too early top 25s. Already looking ahead to 2023 on top of more NFL playoff predictions. The next week, more NFL playoff predictions along with a little sprinkle of college football content. We might go into the coaching carousel. We might sprinkle in some what is. We'll probably do a little bit of both, alternate, just to have it in there. And I would say around February, late February, early March, we'll get into schedule previews for those top 25 teams that we put out. That'll carry us through for a couple months. We'll talk a little bit of college basketball. We'll have a couple other filler stuff in there. And then, boom, once June hits, prediction season's back. It's going to be here before you know it. Every year when the national championship comes around, it ends, I'm like, how am I going to fill my time, right? How are we going to survive until next season? The countdown's on over 280-something days until the next football season. I'm like, how will I survive? And yet, when June rolls around, like, holy crap, we got like 2-3 months left. We got to go. We got stuff to put out. We got content. We got to start to look. We're looking at numbers. We're looking at stats. We're looking at transfers. Like, it's time to go. And it gets us all the way through to August. It's a really, really exciting time. And it fills the void for us here. And hope it does for you guys as well. So, let's hit these last few questions in the chat here. We appreciate all of you guys that are here tonight for this wrap-up. Hunter Shin, I don't know if you're still here, man. I just saw your comment. Happy New Year, man. Hope you had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. It's been a great start to the year. It's been hectic. It's been busy, but wouldn't have it any other way. And it was one heck of a season. I'm glad you were able to call in a few times this year. There will be a lot more opportunities in the coming months and definitely in the next season. We've got a lot of stuff that we're going to be working on over these next 8-9 months to get us ready for that season like we promised. And we're really, really excited for that. So we hope to have you there as well. But I hope the new year's treating you well. And I'm banking on the next year, 2023, treating Virginia Tech a little bit well also. So fingers crossed on that. But Hunter, we appreciate you and all your support, man. You guys have been there. You have been there for forever, and we appreciate you. Paxton, any chance Cliff is the next coach at West Virginia once Neil Brown gets fired? Probably not. I think Cliff is either going to take a lower level head coaching gig at the college level, or he's going to go off to be an offensive coordinator at a elite high program. That could be in the NFL. A lot of openings. You look around the league right now, a lot of head coaching vacancies in the NFL. He won't get a head coaching job, but the Patriots need an offensive coordinator badly. The Broncos are needing everybody. The Texans need people. So I can see Cliff Kingsbury going back to Texas to get paired up with whoever's the new head man in Houston. If he wants to come over to college ranks, there are going to be a lot of options there for him if he wants them. I don't think, though, that he will become the head coach at West Virginia. I think he'll want something a little bit bigger than that in the long run. That's just my take. Don't see it happening there. Could see Graham Harrell getting a shot at a head coaching gig, though, eventually. Yeah, Scotty, what if Oklahoma State never lost to Iowa State in 2011? Well, Oklahoma State goes to the national championship and plays LSU. That's what happens. That loss to Iowa State is what opened the door for Alabama. But the butterfly effect from that, Scotty, is if Oklahoma State never loses to Iowa State and LSU plays Oklahoma State, do we ever get a college football playoff? Does it ever happen? They had been talking about it, but when LSU played Bama, that was like the final straw. That was the final decision for everybody else, because they were like, we don't want to see a conference, we don't want to see a national championship between teams from the same conference, and yet we've already seen 2 in the playoff era between Georgia and Alabama, so it's still going to happen. But yeah, great question there. We got that on the list as well. Robert, you're going to Talladega? Robert, I hope you've seen Talladega Nights. If you suggestions that you can do there, I have never been to Talladega, but you need to watch the movie Talladega Nights if you've never been to. Before you go, you've got to watch Talladega Nights before you go to Talladega. That's going to be awesome. So that'd be a lot of fun. Hope you enjoy that. And we'll wrap it up. We'll wrap it up right here with Owl. College football playoff predictions. Georgia's in there, baby. I mean, barring some crazy study that we do in the offseason, when we do our preseason predictions, I feel very confident in Georgia making it. Their schedule is so weak, and Georgia will look very, very good to potentially have a three-peat. And the last team to have a three-peat from a national championship standpoint was Minnesota, all the way back, I believe, from 1934 to 1936. So it's looking good. Someone's going to have to stop them, whether that's Alabama, whether that's Tennessee, whether that's someone in the playoff semifinal. But Georgia, to me, feels like a playoff lock to make the playoff next year. So that's your SEC team. You could see, hey, good night, doggy. I appreciate you, man. Good night. Thank you for all your support this season. Have a great one. We'll see you soon. A lot of content coming your way. We're not going anywhere. So that's your SEC. You could see a second SEC team and get in there. Does Alabama bounce back? Maybe. Does Tennessee have a good year? We possibly could have seen Tennessee get in had they not lost to South Carolina. But let's say there's not. Caleb Williams is back for USC. And hey, Hunter Shin, appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate you and your support. And definitely stay in touch. Like I said, we got a lot of videos coming out. Just because this is the season recap doesn't mean we're done. We're still cranking out videos. When we say we got football content year round, we mean it. So, but I appreciate you and your support. Take care, and we'll definitely talk soon. But to finish Al's question, Georgia, USC could be the team out of the Pac-12. Washington could be. Penix is coming. You talk about the quarterback depth in the Pac-12 guys. I mean, you got Michael Penix at Washington, Bo Nix at Oregon, Caleb Williams at USC, DJ Uiagalelei over at Oregon State. I think Jaden DeLora is still at Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. Golly, who else is there? Cam Rising still at Utah. He's going to come back. So, I mean, the Pac-12 is just loaded with talent. And I think you might see a Pac-12 representative this next year. I really think you could get one in. Let's just say, for the sake of the argument, because they were so close this year, let's say it's USC. I'm not holding me to that. Georgia, USC. I don't think you're going to get a team from the Big 12 in there. I don't think a Big 12 team is going to make the playoff. I don't see Oklahoma or Texas or TCU or Kansas State or anybody else doing that. So Big 12's out. Big 10, we'll go with Ohio State. I don't think Michigan gets back for one of two reasons. Mainly because I think Jim Harbaugh won't be there. I think Harbaugh's leaving. I think Harbaugh's going to the NFL. I don't know where. Denver, Carolina, who knows? But I don't think Harbaugh will be their coach. So Michigan's out. So let's say Ohio State, Georgia, Ohio State, USC, ACC. Does someone get in? Be Clemson or Florida State, probably. We'll go with low reliable. Give me Alabama. Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, USC. Is it boring? Yes. Is it exciting? Probably not. But that's who I'm early playoff, Mr. Owl. That is my early playoff pick for you. And that's just really off the top of my head, without doing much research on these teams going into this next year, without really taking a deep dive into their schedules. Come back to me in June and July, and we'll have our official playoff prediction, one that's a little bit more accurate and one that we definitely feel a little bit more comfortable and confident in. But that's going to be my take right there. Georgia, Alabama, so give me two SEC teams, Ohio State and USC. No, thank you. Thank you very much for that. And with that, guys, we will wrap up this 2022 college football season. I want to thank every single one of you. Paxton, good night, man. Good night. Have a great one. Robert, we appreciate you Al, we appreciate you. Scotty B, Hunter Shin, Graham Brooks, Talk Is Pit, Mina Eldawane, Eddie Rose, 2016 Cavaliers, golly, Jerry Turner, we appreciate you so much. I think we mentioned Grant. Righteous Pimp, all right, like that. David Cattell, R1, Salty Wings, Matthew Hazelhorst, of course, with that big super chat earlier in the night, and countless others that are watching either now or later. We appreciate you and what a fantastic season it's been. Not just a fantastic season for us here at the channel, but a fantastic season for all of you. Because it was one hell of a season. It was one hell of a season, and 2023 is shaping up to be even better. Again, this is the end of the 2022 season. Focus is now on 2023. We've already told you a lot of the off-season content coming your way. The content does not stop here at the channel. So we want you guys to come check it out. Spread the word. Subscribe, like, help us out, and continue to grow this channel to make it one of the premier sources for college football content year-round. That's what we're going to give you. Year-round content. Promise you. Our word. Scouts honor. So appreciate you all again for the support. Have a great rest of your night. We'll see you back here tomorrow on the Gridiron Expert NFC playoff predictions coming your way, and a full week of content starting up again on